In 2015, Elizabeth Holmes graced the cover of Forbes as the world's youngest self-made female billionaire. Her blood testing startup, Theranos, carried a valuation of $9 billion. Investors and the media eagerly compared her to Silicon Valley royalty. She actively cultivated this comparison, adopting the signature black turtleneck and intensely studied mannerisms of Steve Jobs. Yet, exactly 1 year later, the company's value hit zero. Holmes faced criminal fraud charges, and the foundational technology the entire empire rested upon had never actually worked. The persistence of the Theranos story raises a troubling question. For years, major institutions and some of the world's most sophisticated investors accepted a functioning product on faith alone, ignoring the absence of any verifiable proof. To understand how this happened, we have to look at the environment Theranos entered. Modern medicine is often expensive, intimidating, and complex. High out-of-pocket costs and bureaucratic hurdles routinely prevent people from seeking the care they need. Theranos offered a solution to this friction. They claimed they could run over 200 fast, inexpensive diagnostic tests using nothing more than a single finger prick. No large needles and no daunting trips to a laboratory. This was an incredibly powerful promise. It offered patients dignity, convenience, and direct control over their own health information, removing the typical barriers between a person and their medical data. When venture capitalists listened to this pitch, they stopped acting like standard financial analysts evaluating risk. They believed they were funding a vital humanitarian mission. The collective desperation for a more accessible healthcare system created a massive blind spot. The pitch solved such a painful human problem that people simply wanted it to be true, bypassing the rigorous technical evaluation that medical devices require. Holmes protected this illusion by weaponizing a cognitive shortcut known as authority bias. This is our tendency to attribute accuracy to the opinions of authoritative figures. By associating her technology with powerful individuals, she manufactured instant credibility. She deliberately populated the Theranos board of directors with prominent national figures, military leaders, and former cabinet members, consciously avoiding experts in medical diagnostics or peer-reviewed science. Figures like former Secretary of State George Shultz provided a dense layer of institutional power. His presence alone acted as a heavy deterrent against anyone questioning the company's claims. General James Mattis further extended this shield. These men were brilliant in their own fields, but they were not equipped to provide scientific oversight. They were there to supply political stature and intimidate skeptics. Holmes paired this board with what psychologists call the charisma effect. She meticulously engineered her personal presentation, lowering her voice, maintaining unblinking eye contact, and wearing a strict uniform to project the unyielding certainty that venture capital culture expects from visionary founders. This twin defense mechanism of heavy political legitimacy and intense founder charisma completely short-circuited the standard scientific method. It built an impenetrable force field that repelled basic questions requiring actual physical proof. Behind that force field, the clinical reality was failing. The proprietary machine Theranos promoted, known as the Edison, was mechanically incapable of performing the vast majority of the tests advertised to the public. To cover the gap, the company secretly diluted patient blood samples and routed them through standard, commercially available testing analyzers from companies like Siemens. The sleek, frictionless system pitched on magazine covers and in boardrooms was entirely separate from the bulky, traditional machines actually doing the diagnostic work in the lab. This rigged architecture had immediate, dangerous consequences. Because the small blood samples had to be diluted to run on standard machines, the chemical balances were thrown off, leading directly to real patients receiving incorrect medical data. Patients relying on these diagnostics suffered tangible harm. Some received false reassurances of health that delayed necessary treatments, while others endured severe panic after being told they had life-threatening illnesses that did not actually exist. By providing unverified diagnostic data to real patients, Theranos exposed the public to significant biological risk. The company chose to preserve a corporate illusion at the direct expense of human safety. The first serious fracture in this illusion came from within the company. Tyler Schultz, a young employee, witnessed the failing data firsthand and attempted to raise the alarm through the proper internal channels. Instead of receiving answers, he was met with aggressive legal threats and corporate surveillance. Worse, he was forced into a bitter standoff against his grandfather, George Shultz, who chose to believe the CEO's narrative over his grandson's warnings. When internal avenues failed, Tyler took the immense risk of speaking to the press. This provided the critical breach needed to begin dismantling the company's heavy defenses. Armed with these leaks, Wall Street Journal reporter John Carreyrou spent months gathering verified, cross-checked evidence. His diligent reporting finally pierced Holmes's confident public denials. The protection surrounding Theranos was so thick that breaking it required destroying familial trust and relying on relentless, hard data to ultimately overcome the founder's reality distortion. In 2022, the legal system delivered its verdict. Elizabeth Holmes was convicted on 4 counts of criminal fraud and sentenced to 11 years in federal prison. But her sentencing leaves us with a critical psychological lesson. This diagram illustrates motivated reasoning, a cognitive blind spot where individuals actively seek out information that confirms their desires, while conflicting facts simply bounce off. This dynamic explains how highly intelligent leaders were fooled. The promised future of cheap, painless diagnostics was simply too attractive to reject, causing them to willfully ignore the warning signs. Holmes was removed from the board, but the cultural ecosystem that enabled her remains entirely intact. The venture capital world still heavily rewards extreme confidence, grand visions, and charisma, long before demanding scientific proof. Because human nature is still vulnerable to authority bias and motivated reasoning, the exact same conditions that built this illusion are still in place. The next Theranos is already being funded right now.